Hello everyone and welcome to Blues Fans TV. I'm Sophie Rose, and as you have all been asking for some transfer news, I thought I would give a little bit of an update on sort of the news that's been swirling around the last week or so, and that is around two players, one of our own leaving and another potential Premier League player coming to Chelsea. So let's start off with who may be leaving then. Now, Willian, I think, has been a bit of a divide with fans. I personally think he's scored some amazing goals for Chelsea, especially, he went on a spell of, having some really good free kicks. We bought him, I think, after he impressed us when he played against us. So that was sort of one of the things that drove us to wanting to bring him to the Premier League and to bring him to Chelsea Football Club to try and win us more trophies. And he has won trophies since he's been here. Is his time running out? Yes, he is getting older. He's over the age of 30. One thing I think about Willian is that he does actually love living in London to an extent. Yes, he's Brazilian, but a lot of players love living in London. It is one of the best cities out there in terms of, sort of lifestyle. Okay, fine, the weather's not that great, but I think many athletes enjoy playing somewhere like London because there's so much to do. I think that obviously you have to take into consideration they have families, so they want somewhere that is, sort of kid-friendly and where they can sort of raise a family as well as, go to work and enjoy what they do. So it's not really any different for anybody. I think whenever you go into a job, you always want to know that where you're going to work is also suitable for yourself and your family. And that is why I think the potential signing of Willian to Arsenal is on the cards. Now, the thing that Arsenal have sort of stalled on here, although they could sign him on a free transfer, is that Willian is still demanding £120,000 a week for a 3-year contract, which I think would take him to around the age of 34, 35 by the time he's finished. Arsenal are never going to pay that. Now, I know some fans don't really understand why we sell players to Arsenal, but I don't really see the problem. I mean, if you look at our spell, so we sold Czech when obviously we wanted Courtois to come in. That obviously failed us. But I think Czech was towards the end of his career. He's now come back and doing something different at Chelsea behind the scenes, which is great. But we sold him to Arsenal when he was sort of, going to retire in a few years. And so he did. And I think if you ask any Arsenal fan, they weren't too impressed with Czech's performance over the years. I think he started off quite well and was an improvement from what they had before, but that didn't really last, and he sort of became a little bit inconsistent. I think one thing about Czech, obviously, is he's not the best penalty saver, which for me was always, I think, his downside. Other than that, he was obviously a great goalkeeper for us over the years. But we sold him to Arsenal, and that for me was no problem. I wasn't worried about that. And then if you look at the likes of David Luiz, again, we sold him to Arsenal when I think if he'd stayed at Chelsea, he would, for me, I've only liked him as a midfielder. I don't think he's a very good defender at all. That can be debated. Yes, he's had some very good games in defence for us. He's also been a massive liability for Chelsea in certain games. Sometimes he gets too excited, makes silly fouls, gets sent off. So that for me was always David Luiz's downside. Obviously, nevertheless, he did score some good goals for Chelsea. The one in particular that sticks out for me was Fulham at Craven Cottage. But, we sold him to Arsenal. I'm drifting off track now. We sold him to Arsenal when, again, we weren't really used to them. They're sort of like they get, not our leftovers, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? But they get players from us when Chelsea have already used, I think, the best out of them. And again, with Willian, I think this is sort of the same situation. Willian is going to go there when he isn't really the player that I think he started off as with Chelsea. I think you see that with players as they get older, obviously when they're going to be going into retirement, their best days are sort of over. And for Arsenal, if I'm being honest, if I'm trying to be unbiased, I don't really see it as a good investment for them. I think 120 grand a week is a lot of money. Arsenal are not ones to splash out on signings, let alone pay those sorts of players that money, even if they can get him on a free transfer, because this would be a deal they're locked into. I think Willian's asking for 3 years. I don't know whether that's him or his agent, but I'm assuming it's a joint decision. But I don't really see Arsenal forking out that kind of money. Does Willian need to move on from Chelsea? I think he's one of our most experienced players. I think he is past his best days for sure. I think Chelsea, whilst we're rebuilding, whilst we're using youth, that sort of thing, although I do think we need a few world-class players to come in and sort of intertwine with them. I do think that he probably isn't the answer for us anymore. I think his days are over. I think he's done a very good job. By no means should he be slated by any Chelsea fan. He's been a wonderful player for us. But is his consistency up there with the likes of, I don't know, what Eden Hazard's was before he left? Obviously not. You know, I'd argue that other midfielders are far more valuable to Chelsea than Willian at this current time, but it's not to say that he hasn't been a good servant for our club, because he has, and he has contributed to us winning Premier League titles. So I don't think you can slate players for that. You just have to know when it's time to go. And I think for Willian it is. Will he sign for Arsenal? I don't see them paying 120 grand a week. I think there'll have to be some compromise there. I think for Willian, if he wants the money by now, he should just go abroad and he'd, you know, easily get it. But yeah, I think his Chelsea career is sort of coming to an end because we're in a rebuilding stage. But I also think that although Arsenal's perfect for him because it's just down the road more or less, he doesn't need to move his family or anything, he's going to have to compromise on his wages, because I don't think he's going to be worth 120 grand a week to Arsenal. Although, is he a better player than some of the ones they've currently got? Yes, probably. But I don't see Arsenal doing that. But then Arsenal make all sorts of funny moves, don't they? I think they would agree the David Luiz signing has not paid off. They thought it would, but I think he's made more mistakes than good since he's been at Arsenal. So you guys comment below and let me know what you think of that. Now, the other bit of news is, this one's been floating around for a little bit, is Declan Rice from West Ham. I actually think Declan Rice is a very good player. I'll start off with the positives. I think I don't think he had the best season from what I spoke to West Ham. Not that I'm watching West Ham every week, but I did go and do a video for Scorecard at West Ham, and they did say, although he's, you know, a bright young player, hasn't had the best season. If any of you West Ham fans are watching this, you can comment on that and let me know. But I don't think he's had the best of seasons. But for Chelsea, I think he would be a good player. I think he is young. I think he's an English player, which I think is very important. And obviously his best mate, Mason Mount, is at Chelsea and in the first team currently. So they would work well together. And I always think that, although you obviously work better when you have, you know, your mates around you and they're on your team, and that's obviously a great thing. I think work is work, but it's always good to have players that get along with each other. You never want any conflict in the team, so that's obviously a major plus. But is it obviously a main reason to sign somebody? No, of course not. The problem with Declan Rice here is that West Ham have put a fee of 70 million for him. Do we think that's too much? Yes, probably yes. I mean, I think they're probably valuing this on the fact that when a club knows someone, a club like Chelsea are interested in a player, they'll always slightly overvalue the player anyway, because West Ham obviously aren't as rich of a club as us. They are not as much of a prestige club, I would say. They haven't done particularly well last season. You know, they were relegation area, bottom half of the table. So I think to value a player like that for 70 million, I think that's a lot. Although I think it's a collective team, and sometimes really good players get mixed in between players that are not of their standard. I do think 70 million for Declan Rice is a huge sum, and I'm not sure that Chelsea would go out and pay that. I think that's crazy money. Maybe you guys disagree with me and you want to comment below, but I don't think Declan Rice has proved himself to be a £70 million player yet. Has he proved himself to be a good player? Yes, I think he is, and I think he's a talent for the future, especially with his age, and sort of already made it into the first team in the Premier League already at such a young age. I think he's fantastic, obviously, as I do with Mason and the guys that have come through at Chelsea, but that's all down to Frank. I don't think without this transfer ban or without Frank we would have seen hardly any of our youngsters see the light of day in the first team. So there are positives here, but there are also a lot of negatives, and I would like you guys to comment below. I don't really think West Ham collectively might be worth 70 million. I think that's just an extortionate amount, and I think we're being mugged off a little bit, I think is the word there. So I think there's going to have to be some negotiations, although I wouldn't say no to Declan coming to Chelsea, because I'm all about young English players, and I think Frank is the one to get the best out of them. I just think that is just a ludicrous amount of money. But comment below, maybe I'm wrong, but I only look at West Ham's performance last season, or this season, whatever you want to call it. I don't know whether we're calling it, last season, or we're still currently we're suspended and we're going to continue. I have no idea if we're going to resume, but comment below, let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know what you think of Willian going to Arsenal. Let me know if you think Declan Rice would be a good signing for Chelsea. Maybe you think 70 million is too cheap. No, I'm only joking. Anyways, please subscribe, please like this video, and if you like more videos like this, I will upload some soon.